Property 101. Pay attention. I have a question for you. Is rent mandatory in leases? Well, your answer will depend on the duration of the lease. If it's a lease of 3 years and below, which is usually a tenancy arrangement, then yes, it's mandatory, but only if it's not a lease under sale. Majority of the time, leases of 3 years and below are created by tenancy agreements, which are simple contracts. And if you know anything about simple contracts, you would know that valid consideration has to be furnished before it can be enforceable in court. In this case, rent is usually a consideration for a lease. But if it is a lease of more than 3 years, then by law it's required to be by deed. And unlike simple contracts, the courts will entertain your matter if that deed of lease is breached, even though no consideration was furnished, as long as that deed was properly executed. That is, it was signed, sealed, and delivered. A very important feature of a lease is lawful possession by a tenant. And whether that person pays regular rent, subsidized rent, or no rent at all is immaterial. The lessor and lessee can execute a deed of lease, and it's possible that it may contain no consideration. The mere acceptance by the lessee would be sufficient. Sometimes in a deed of lease, you might see that there will be no consideration, but the only requirement from the lessee would be to undertake to perform and observe covenants in that lease. Which brings me to my final point, covenant. In a deed of lease, rent is not mandatory, unless there is a covenant in that deed of lease that rent has to be paid. So if that covenant to pay rent is broken, then the lessee would lose exclusive possession of the property, and the lessor would have a right of reversion. So if you think about it, it's not the rent itself that's the problem, but the failure to perform and observe the covenant to pay that rent. Here's a bonus for you. Does rent have to be cash? Well, unless expressly stated in the agreement, rent does not have to be cash. Rent could be paid in money's worth. In the case of Pitcher and Tovey, it was paid with bottles of wine. Also, in the case of Doedney and Benham, rent was equated to a service, which in this case was cleaning the parish church. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and remember, stay lawful, stay informed.